They are not the conference finals we expected, but they are the conference finals we'll be betting on in the NBA. Pacers, Celtics, Mavs, T-Wolves. One comes with a historic series price. I'm sure you can guess which one that is. We'll be talking about that momentarily, plus some best bets for Major League Baseball on Monday. Let me bring in my good buddy Mark Zinno. Mark, the good New York boy that you are, I know you must be very sad over the Knicks' demise. However, the objective handicapper that you are, I know that you think the Pacers are actually a worse matchup for the Celtics in the NBA's Eastern Conference Finals. Talk to me a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Knicks, even if they were to have Jalen Brunson healthy, I didn't think were the tougher matchup for the Boston Celtics. And with all deference to Jalen Brunson and how well he's played this postseason, if styles make fights, and we believe that they do, the Pacers play a much different style than the Knicks. The Knicks play the slowest pace in the league. Boston plays a bottom 10 pace, right? Like you're feeding into what Boston does well. Sit in a half-court set and make a ton of shots. The reason why Boston scores so much is because they're so efficient on offense and they have great shooters. The Knicks don't have the shooting to keep up with the Boston Celtics. The only reason they look like they did is because they were playing a really bad Pacers defense. Now, you may say, Zinno, okay, it's still a bad Pacers defense going up against the best team in the East. You're right, but the thing is that when the Pacers want to get out and run up and down and get out and transition and everything else and say, we're going to make you play our speed, they do that. The Pacers aren't that team. The Pacers are that NFL coach, right, who despite being down 20 in the third quarter is like, well, I run the ball. That's our identity, so I'm just going to keep running it. That's the Pacers. I don't care what the score is. We're going to get out and run. I don't care whether we're up 10, down 10, up 20, down 20. We're just going to get out and run. And they're going to force Boston to play at their speed. And what happens is when you play at that pace, if you're not making shots early and often, guess what? You start to get all nervous and you get all verklempt and oh, God, everything just doesn't feel good because I'm not making shots. And all of a sudden, Indiana's running up and down the court and your head's can't. I mean, it's just a bad matchup style-wise. And if you look at the 5 games these two teams played this year, you'll see that Indiana is better than a puncher's chance here.
Yeah. Now, early bettors have taken a chunk out of the series price. It is down to minus 900 on Boston to advance. There have only been, going back to 1988, Mark, 3 conference finals with a larger series price. Those were the Jordan Bulls in 97. They won in 5 games against the Heat. The LeBron Cavs in 2016 against the Raptors. They won in 6. And then the 2017 Warriors, they swept the Spurs. So Osbeck is saying that the Pacers aren't going to last long here. What do we think about? Because it's plus money to get them at plus 2.5 games, right?
Which is
meaning
insane.
that they would have to take this to 6 games.
Yeah, I think the Indiana Pacers can win 2 games in this series. I really do. I wouldn't shock me if this series went 7. Like I was actually flabbergasted that this is a series where I'm going to get 2.5 games plus 2.5 games at plus money. Like I would have figured that at least would have been minus 110, But when you're getting it at plus money, to me, I think it's too much to pass up. Yeah, I mean, here's the other thing, BP. Like I know we think it's a fait accompli that the Celtics are getting there, but we thought it was a fait accompli last year against the 8 seed that they were getting there, and they did not.
Very true.
And think of this too. Like, imagine what Boston is going to deal with now. They just played 2 below average, slow-paced offensive teams. Now they got to kick into a whole nother gear and play a great offense that has equally as good shooting across the board and plays the second fastest pace in all of the NBA. I mean, it's a dramatic shift here. So the Celtics aren't going to have a lot of time to get comfortable with this thing. And we've seen the Celtics in both series now against much worse teams than the Pacers drop game 2 at home. So
yes, and that's the point I want to make here. As you were talking and things were ruminating in my head there, I think the whole key to this series is, can the Celtics do what they failed to do in the first 2 series against inferior teams and take the first 2 games at home? I think that's the whole crux of this series. Because if they take the first 2 at home, Indiana's not beating them 4 times in 5 games, obviously. Look, I'm going to be very blunt. I think the Celtics are advancing no matter what, but I think, the length of this series is very much determined by whether or not Indiana can do what the Miami Heat were able to do, what the Cleveland Cavaliers were able to do, and that was steal one of the first 2 games in Boston. Both of those teams stole game 2, of course. All right, we have a much shorter price over in the Western Conference Finals. Minnesota, they got to 97 points, Mark. I know that made you very happy last night. A nice winner for you. They are minus 175 favorites against the Dallas Mavericks. In the Western Conference Finals. These teams met 4 times in the regular season. Every single one of those games stayed under the total. We have a much lower total, though, for game 1. Looking at the WagerTalk.com odds screen, 206, 206.5. I'm seeing the totals for those 4 regular season meetings, Mark, 221, 234, 228.5, 231. So it's a similar deal to what we've been saying a lot in the playoffs. Look at the differences in the totals between the regular season and the playoffs.
Yeah, and look, the Mavericks, truthfully, for me, have been a tough figure, right? Like, I've really struggled to figure out when this team is going to show up defensively, when they're going to show up offensively. They're getting every bit of a good as defensive team, probably a marginally better defensive team in Minnesota than they just dealt with OKC. I mean, OKC was also top 5 in defensive efficiency in the NBA this year. So, I don't know what to think about the series price here. I genuinely do think it's a coin flip. As much as the world loves Anthony Edwards in Minnesota right now, and they want to crown him as the next big thing in the NBA, that Luka Doncic guy still turns out to be pretty good last time I checked. So there'll be enough star power here between these 2 teams to go back and forth. It's just a question of whether, Dallas can end up, stealing one on the road. And this is a Minnesota team really that, again, had 3 games at home, and I think they lost 2 of them, right? So it's an interesting spot here for both of them. I'd tell you this much, though, that 4.5 of the first game feels a little bit fat, given that Minnesota was just on the road, and now they have to have a emotional letdown spot for a game 1 against Dallas, which is a little bit more rested here. So I would lean on Dallas in the first game here to cover that number.
In the NBA, we don't often think about role players deciding a series, right? We always gravitate towards the stars. You mentioned Edwards. You mentioned Doncic. But Dallas beat Oklahoma City because their role players were better. SGA was great for the Thunder, but no one else was even good. So I think that's honestly, when you look at this series, is what's going to determine who comes out of the West and goes to the NBA Finals is the role players in this particular series. All right, let's move to Major League Baseball now, shall we? We've got to tighten the ship up when it comes to Major League Baseball. Both you and I are seeing the NBA very well. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Major League Baseball, we got to get this thing going, and you're going to get us going in the daytime, a 3:07 start north of the border, where the Blue Jays host the White Sox. How are you looking at this one?
Yeah, look, you actually get a really quality pitching matchup. We tried to fade Eric Fetty the last time he pitched against the Washington Nationals, if you remember, and he did us dirty because he shut them out and was fantastic. In fact, he's 4-0 with a 2.60 ERA and a 1.06 whip here on the mound for the White Sox. So we're getting their best starter. And the White Sox, after their horrid start of 3 and whatever it was, they've actually played close to around 500 baseball in the month of May. Right. So we are seeing this team level off here a little bit and a little bit more respectable than odds makers are giving them credit for, certainly given the minus 200 price that the Blue Jays are laying on the money line here. But they start Jose, don't call me Barrios. We don't know which one it is. Barrios. Pick whichever one you like here. Barrios has been very good at home, but he's been very good overall. He's been the most reliable Blue Jays starter this year, 2.82 ERA, a 1.05 whip. All this adds up to me to a White Sox team that doesn't hit a lot and a Toronto team that, God, scratch your head about when this team is just the bats are going to wake up and start scoring. But 5, 4, 3, 2, and 3 is what they scored in their last 5 games here. Bad offense for the White Sox, average offense for the Blue Jays, and they aren't scoring a ton at home here. All adds up to a first 5 under 4.5 here for me.
For my half of the double play, I am going to look at the most hard luck starter in all of Major League Baseball. That is Reese Olson for the Detroit Tigers. Mark, this guy's got a 2.09 ERA and a .99 whip, and he's 0-4 in his 8 starts. The team is somehow 1-7 in his 8 starts this season. And in the last 3 starts, this is astounding. This just jumped out to me when I was breaking down today's card. Olsen's got a .47 ERA and a .52 whip. The Tigers are 0-3 in those games. They've scored 1, 4, and 1 runs for this guy. Olsen has given up just 2 runs in 19 innings in that stretch. One of them was unearned. That's on 6 hits. If you go back 4 starts, he's given up just 3 runs in 26 innings. This guy is way overdue for a win. And you look at this matchup with the Kansas City Royals, obviously one of the more pleasant surprises in all of baseball to start the season. The Tigers on the road this year, Mark, their record isn't great, 13-10, but they're plus 1.4 runs per game. They're only giving up 3.3 runs. Now, I know what you may come back with it, or what you're probably thinking in that head of yours. The Tigers do have trouble scoring sometimes. A lot of times they have trouble scoring, quite frankly. But look, I'm counting on Olsen to do his job.
What about the 7th inning last night? What about the 7th inning over the weekend against the D-backs? What about that? They didn't have trouble scoring then.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I'll take that. They can even spread those 6 or 7 runs out that they scored in that 1 inning here. I'll take 6 runs over the course of the game. Michael Wacha, in his last 3 starts, this is baseball for you. I talked about Olsen with his numbers, has an 0-3 team start record, his last 3 starts. Well, Wacha, the Royals are 2-1 in his last 3 starts, despite a 5.74 ERA and a 1.47 whip. Olsen is the better starter here, and the Tigers, you and I have talked about this, the Tigers quietly have a fantastic bullpen. On the road, Tigers relievers, 2.22 ERA, 1.01 whip. Add it all up, everything I've been saying, I like the Tigers to go to Kauffman Stadium and steal the series opener Monday from the Royals. Since the start of last season, Mark, Detroit, 12-4 head-to-head against KC. They took 2 of 3 from them in April in the Motor City.
Yeah, look, if there was anybody who could find warts beautiful on a player, it certainly is you, and that is Reese Olson. So I love the logic and I love the look here. I think when you there's a lot of times that happens in baseball that sometimes the numbers don't equate to what is actually going on. And I'll refer back to last year at Mitch Keller again, who had a great, looked like he had a great start to the beginning of the season last year, and then was bomb after the All-Star break, and we made a lot of money off him, fading him in the second half last year. So it's one of those deals where Reese Olson has pitched way above his head. I shouldn't say pitched way. He's pitched a lot better than his numbers are indicating. And anytime you see those telltales there, and that's what analytics is really for in baseball, is to get you past all numbers and get you to a hey, this is what the guy is really worth kind of deal. And I think you're seeing that with Olson.
Yeah. Speaking of numbers, let's talk about how you and I have been doing. Also, a summer celebration going on right now at WagerTalk. All access from Memorial Day through Labor Day. Right now, you see it on the screen. You can get 99 days with the handicapper of your choice for less than $6 per day. By now, you get up to 7 days free. You can do that with Mark. You could do that with myself. You could do it with the both of us. We would really appreciate that. It's going to be a great summer, Mark. I'm going to acknowledge right now, it was a great weekend up until the last play. I lost my 5% play on the Knicks. Was obviously an unmitigated disaster. I was really upset about it. Trust me, I sulked the set all Sunday evening about that. But prior to that, I had won 6 straight plays overall. It is a 37-14 run combined between NBA and soccer over the last month. That's pretty good. So while we lost a big play on Sunday, it's always important to keep in mind the big picture, and that I'll hang my hat on that 37-14 run against anybody, and it shows that taking advantage of that deal right there on your screen is a great idea. Again, all access Memorial Day through Labor Day. I know you and I are going to be here on the Morning Wager each and every day talking about Major League Baseball, and people need to go to our pages as well to get all of those winners. What do you got cooking? I know you got a big play in the NBA already set for Game 1 of the conference finals.
Yes. I pounced early here, and it's been after a great run through April into the middle part of May in the NBA, we sort of had a little bit of up and down, just kind of sitting at 500, not really anything spectacular. But we did get that cash to win last night with the Minnesota Timberwolves team total over, so we feel good about this spot. But this play coming up here, it is a 5% play. Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, and I just absolutely love this look. We have really crunched the numbers on this one and put ourselves in a very favorable position here. So 5% play. It's loaded up already on the site, wt.buzz/MZ. And we're going to ride this for the next 24, 48 hours into game one here. And hopefully, we build a little bit more momentum and we actually, start to see things bounce our way in Major League Baseball coming up as well. We're going to stay off baseball today. We'll get back to it tomorrow as we keep this 5% play up on the site. So again, wt.buzz/MZ. Get that Game 1 Eastern Conference Finals winner right now over at WagerTalk.com.
Now, our show best bet, is in Major League Baseball, and you want to talk about momentum. Well, here's two teams that have absolutely none of it because the Minnesota Twins come in on a 6-game losing streak. They head to the nation's capital to take on the Washington Nationals, who have lost 5 straight. And Mark, we were talking, man, I can't believe we can get the Nats plus 1.5 at this price.
Yeah. Listen, when you get the Nats plus 1.5 and you're only laying around minus 114, minus 18, and the Nationals are the 3rd best run line team win percentage in Major League Baseball, trailing only Cleveland and Kansas City at 27 and 18. That's 60% for the Nationals this year. But the Nats also have a really quality starter on the mound for themselves tonight in Mitchell Parker, who has been pretty, dominant, all things considered, for a Nationals pitcher, but a guy with a very respectable 3.09 ERA, a 1.13 whip. The Twins have not hit lefties particularly well, particularly from a power standpoint. Across the board this year, very middle of the league in OPS and WRC plus. Over the last, 3 weeks that we're in May, since May 1st, we're looking at a Twins team that has scored the second fewest runs against left-handed pitchers, trailing only the Atlanta Braves, who miraculously can't score anymore. But they're also a team that is bottom 5 in batting average and bottom 10 in OPS and WRC plus against lefties in the month of May. We get the Nationals at home here, plus 1.5 at a very favorable price. And we're going to jump on that natitude and take the Nationals here today.
Hashtag natitude. This is a 6:45 Eastern start. Oh, by the way, and I'll throw a few more things in there. The Twins, during their 6-game losing streak, Mark, they've scored 2 runs or less 5 times. Hard to cover the 1.5 when you're putting up no, it's not good at all. And they're not hitting either. They're lucky in some of these games they've even scored 2 runs because yesterday they had 2 runs on 4 hits. They did have the game 4 runs on 10 hits on Saturday, but they lose that one big, 11-4. But before that, it was 2 runs on 4 hits, no runs on 3 hits, no runs on 4 hits, 1 run on 7 hits. So the Twins, why would you want to lay 1.5 on the road with this team? They can't cross the plate. I'm with you. Washington plus 1.5 is our show best bet. Let us know what you think of that down in the comments section below. I'll throw in this. You take out that 12-game win streak for the Twins, Mark, and they are 10 games under 500 this year. So other than that, they just haven't been a very good baseball team. Other than that, and remember, they played the White Sox in 2 series during that, and the Angels as well. The Angels, I think we can make a case they're no better than the 3rd worst team in the American League. So let us know what you think of Washington plus 1.5 down in the comments section below. Smash that like button if you like what you heard here. We always appreciate the support. And if you're not already subscribed to the Wager Talk YouTube channel, do so by hitting that subscribe button. That way you don't miss any of our exclusive sports betting content. All right, Mark, another edition of the Morning Wager in the books. He is Mark Zinno. I am Bryan Power. This was the Morning Wager. Until next time, let's cash some tickets.